Right now, let's talk to Mark McDonald, who's a barrister for Lucy Letby. He held a press conference yesterday in which he said that it was his intention to try and seek a new appeal for Lucy Letby, who, of course, is serving time in prison for the deaths of several babies in her care. Basically, they're going to seek a fresh appeal, Lucy Letby's team, on the grounds that the chief medical witness for the prosecution has changed his mind about how some of the babies in her care actually died. Now, let's find out from Mark exactly how this could impact what is going to happen next. Mark, very good morning to you.
Morning. I made two announcements yesterday. The first is that we're going back to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on new evidence from two neonatologists, and you're absolutely right, Mike. I'm also applying to reopen the appeal in the Court of Appeal due to a shifting of the position by the lead prosecution expert.
Yes, and I mean, I suppose it's a very complicated case, this, and I don't expect you to be able to explain it all in the 5 minutes that we have or whatever it is. But could you kind of outline precisely why this, as far as we know anyway, this witness has changed his mind, and how key was his evidence in the first trial to her becoming convicted?
Yeah, so he was the lead prosecution witness. He was the first medical expert to give an opinion. He was the person who volunteered his services to the police to assist them. And he was the one who came up with a series of hypotheses of how he said she had killed the babies. Remember that there was no direct evidence of her doing any harm to any child. It was just really that children were dying. It would seem that sometimes they died when they were on her watch, not every time. And so the local clinical physicians took against her. There were a whole series of internal inquiries. None of them found that she'd done anything wrong. However, she then took a grievance against the police, and as a result of the conclusions of that, she then took a grievance against the doctors. As a result of that, at the conclusion of that, when it found in her favour, they went to the police and the police started investigating.
Right.
So it is a complicated background, but actually it's quite straightforward. The lead expert volunteered himself to the police and gave a series of hypotheses as how he said, looking at the medical notes, each baby died.
And that's Dr. Dewey Evans, right? And he's now changed his mind. So what does he say now then?
Well, so he gave a series of sort of reasons why he felt that the babies had died or she'd attempted to murder them. Remember, as I say, and I keep coming back to this, there was no direct evidence. It was just simply a hypothesis that he put forward. Initially, it was peer-reviewed later, but initially these hypotheses were divided into air embolism, air down, which is effectively an empty syringe being injected into a sort of venous cannula.
Yeah.
Then there was air down the nasal gastric tube, and it's this issue because that was presented to the jury as a sort of method of collapse and death of these babies. He's saying now that in fact, no, that's not how any baby died, and that's a shift in his position. Now, when it went back to the Court of Appeal, you may remember it was in the Court of Appeal in the May of this year.
Right.
The whole argument, in fact, probably grounds 1 and grounds 3, they kind of overlapped, were all about Dewey Evans and about his reliability, because there was a whole sort of a number of issues concerning his evidence and the way he presented it and previous criticism of him.
Right.
Court of Appeal did not agree with the defence. But we're now saying this shift in position is of such fundamental importance, the Court of Appeal need to relook at it.
And, I mean, how does he explain why he had that view in the first place? And is his view actually considered to be evidence? Because, in a way, it's an opinion rather than something which is a fact, right?
Well, it was an opinion that had her convicted.
Sure. No, I get that. But it's an opinion rather than evidence, right?
Correct. I have to make it evidence. So I have to then go to court and say, look, here's a statement. This is new evidence.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my job.
Right.
Now, the Court of Appeal, I'm asking them to make an exceptional decision to relook at this, and they may take the view no, which is why I'm doing the parallel route as well with the fresh evidence from new medics to say, actually, the theories that were put before the jury on at least 2 of the babies were simply wrong.
And also, there's been some other interesting developments, haven't there, over the course of the past few months in terms of evidence which was presented at the trial, like, for example, the wiping of the security cards, and as to who was in a room at the time when she was thought to have been in the room on her own, which is kind of hard to explain. Again, you know, how do they get stuff like that so wrong?
I don't know, and there is actually, you know, I could spend the whole of your breakfast show talking about all the issues that have come out in relation to what's going on, in particular the state of that neonatal unit, the extent of how many trained staff, how short of staff, how short of resources, how they were taking babies that they probably shouldn't be looking after because they were too high risk for the unit at the time. So there are many things wrong with this case. And it's my job. I've only been instructed 3 months. So it's my job to sort through it and see what I can get back into court and say, look, you need to relook at this because there's a problem here.
And are you instructed by Lucy? If so, have you seen her recently, and how is she?
I am instructed by my instructing solicitor, and my instructing solicitor is instructed by Lucy. So the same arrangement that happens in every sort of barrister to lay-client relationship. But yes is the answer. And the answer to your second question is yes, I've spoken and seen her. And rightly so, and there's no criticism about this. People want to know what's her emotional state, how's she feeling, what she's saying. I've stayed clear of that. I don't want to discuss that because what I want to focus on is the evidence. If this is a miscarriage of justice, it's going to probably be the biggest miscarriage of justice we've had in criminal justice history in this country. And I need to focus on that. And it's a lot of hard work. So I don't sort of get, and as people want me to, they want me to go down and talk about her. I'm not going to do that.
Okay. And in terms of say, for example, if you were to give me a hypothetical percentage of how important this particular piece of evidence was, or this opinion by Dr. Evans was, how much of the case would you say was reliant on that?
It's not how much of the cases was reliant on that piece of evidence, of which I say that it was a significant portion of the case. It's if the expert is shifting his position, then does that make him reliable for anything he has said?
Right.
Reliable.
So you're questioning his authority, in other words?
His reliability, yes. And I have to say that was a question that was argued both at the trial, when they tried to exclude his evidence, but also in the Court of Appeal. This is not a new issue, his reliability. It's been challenged a number of times. Right. What's new is that he's shifted his position. And
there have also been other doctors talking as well, haven't there, about the other possible means by which these children could have died.
So what I have, so you know what's going on in the background, I have approximately 15 to 16 neonatologists from across the world who have come forward and are appalled about what's been going on in this country and say, right, I want to look at these notes and see the medical notes and see what exactly has happened. And they're all working on the case now. I mean, I'm talking, you know, USA, Canada, Japan, Germany, Sweden. They're working on the hospital notes and patients. What I do have in my hands right now are 2 expert reports ready to go, and that's what's going into the CCRC, the Criminal Cases Review Commission.
And do you think, Mark, as a barrister and as Lucy's barrister, that she's innocent completely, or will this seek to suggest that she's not guilty in all cases?
Yeah, I've been asked that question a number of times. First of all, it's not what I think. Yeah, my opinion means nothing. My role is to look at the evidence and see if it stacks up to scrutiny by using incredibly experienced experts and say, look at this and tell me if you think this is true. They've come back and said no. And that blows the whole case out of the water. Remembering, of course, if we go back right to the beginning, you are innocent until you are proven guilty. If the evidence shows that you are not guilty and those convictions are unsafe, you revert right back to where the beginning is. And I leave you to make your own assumptions on that.
Okay. And so what's the time frame for all of this in terms of what happens next?
If it's going to the Court of Appeal, it's an exceptional course that I'm asking them to open up. In fact, it's never been done before, probably once, I think, in our criminal justice history. If they do, we're looking at Easter, roughly, or maybe before. If they don't, then I have to rely solely upon the Criminal Cases Review Commission. And I've got cases in there now that can take... No, I've got one in there that's 7 years old at the moment.
Right. And is this the last chance for Lucy Letby?
No. I've dealt with miscarriage of justice cases over many years, and if I fail with all these experts coming through, which I don't think I will, but if I do, then there will be something else. You see, the problem with this type of conviction, because it's not based upon any direct evidence, because it's based upon predominantly hypotheses that are put before the jury, there's always going to be a doubt on the issues here, always. So this will never go away until a proper trial has taken place where the evidence that I've produced and found goes before the jury.
Mark, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. Mark McDonald, the barrister for Lucy Letby, in what he says should now be an appeal against what he believes to be possibly one of the biggest miscarriages of justice ever in the history of Great Britain.